Hello, I'm Louise Amelia Phelps, sacred landwalker, visionary artist, crafter and storyteller from Stroud in England. And I'm going to read to you a piece written by Lady Colleen Heller about one of her journeys that she has done in the Preseli Mountains in Wales. Here we go. On the Preseli Mountains in Wales. Wales is a very lush country within a country. It is located in the United Kingdom under British rule, but very much its own ancient space. I say it's a country and not a state because it has all the individuality of one. Their Welsh language is taught alongside English. Customs and traditions still remain today, if on a different scale as they did many years ago. The landscape of Wales is wild, energetically stimulating, and the monuments captivating. Hidden waterfalls with wild berry trees dipping into crystal water and caves so deep below the earth you must be carried by a boat to reach the depths. Mountains of slate, rugged and frail at the same time. And the famous blue stone of Stonehenge monument is found here in Dyfed. One festival time, my friend Pamela and I took a group to Wales to climb the Preseli Mountains, where the blue stone came from. The mountain is not blue to look at, but if you break open a stone, you can see the blue striations within. Pamela had been before. She too was an American living abroad. She arrived into my life in England with flowers in hand and a smile as bright as her blonde hair, welcoming me to Chalice Well and Gardens, Glastonbury, and on arrival to my post as the guardian in a grand hug. Pamela is fabulous. Fairly tall, strong and intelligent with a spiritual background based on Native American culture. She loved to travel via driving to get where she wanted to go. That was a blessing in itself, as the distance we wished to cover was greater than one driver could manage. It was so wonderful to have her help me and have her there. It was a blustery, rainy, bone-chilling day, so overcast with thick clouds that it was difficult to know the time by the skies. This day was planned, and the only day we could make our way up to the mountain, so off we went. Travelling time to our location did not improve the weather scenario, unfortunately. We pulled over, looking up at the mountain, seeing no path and no break in the weather. We waited, and after some time we decided to leave the minivan on the side of the windy road and forge ahead up to the Preseli Mountain, dressed in our Wellington boots and rain gear. The rain had slowed back to a drizzle with a misty fog that you could slice with a knife surrounding us. This place was damper than I had ever experienced before, as each molecule of mist carried 3 times its load of moisture, pushing to burst as we cut through it to climb. Each step carried hazards as well. Bogs were hidden beneath small shrubs, bushes, and one misguided step brought you down to your knees like quicksand. I almost lost one of my boots in one go, but my trusty honeysuckle staff helped me to pull me out, grasping my boot at the end to lift it out completely. There was no path to reach the top of the slope to the summit that we could see. All pressed along slowly for what seemed to be hours, picking our way upward on the sloped barren land and pulling each other out of bogs, dripping wet with no warmth in sight for hours. Although the mist was thick, we could see enough to move forward. Strangely enough, while glancing back, the curtains of fog which were drawn open so we could go forward had closed down quickly, so we could not see from where we had come. Ahead lay the summit and the end of the long boggy slope. The Preseli Mountain awaited our climb. After the first leg of the climb, this was not a difficult one, but due to weather, it was a slick one. One by one, we made our way to the first area to rest. Looking back from where we had been held no memory of us passing, as if we were magically dropped into the place where we stood. It was so otherworldly we could have been anywhere but on the earth herself. "Is this the spot?" asked Fabry. "Will it be a lot further?" she asked immediately after I did not respond. "Soon we will be there," I replied. What we were looking for was in my vision earlier the previous day. It's a place where the water will form a mirror pool in the stone, created from nature, large enough to have one woman gaze upon it, the stone pool cupping the water as if held by a hand and mirroring the area around it. Let's look around, but it will be higher than we are right now, I said. So off we went in search, soaking wet and miserable, the thrill of seeking diminishing with each continued wet, bone-chilling cold minute. More of the misty fog rolled in suddenly, denser if that was possible. The mountain was shrouded, water dripping in our eyes, escaping pieces of hair matted down on our faces and damp throughout our layers. This feeling as if we were being watched crept in. Nora was looking slowly about. We were both looking to see where it was coming from. When our eyes met, she nodded in silent agreement. We continued to look into the dense, foggy mist for answers. There were none. Pam Ella was helping Fabry climb around. She was having a time of it. Climbing was not her forte. Fabry's beautiful face in agony, along with Pamella's sure footing and bright smile, they seemed distorted and surreal in the mist, their bodies making strange comical postures, causing the laughter to erupt. Looking for who or what watched us, abandoned in laughter. Mallory and I moved together up towards a small rise. I was feeling frustrated. Where was this place we needed to be, and why hadn't we found it? Pamela called out to us that she felt we were near. As Mallory and I climbed up what seemed to be steps cut by nature in the wet, dark, ragged stone, we slowly rounded the space, and there it was. Not quite as I had seen it in my vision, but close enough. It was almost atop the small peak we were on, weather-beaten stone in the shape of an ancient, craggy hand holding crystal clear water to the brim. The stone above cast its reflection into the mirror pool. There was not much room around it, but enough for one woman to gaze clearly into it. The mist was so dense we could not see all the women scattered about any longer, so we called out over and over so they could follow our voices to meet us. As we watched them approach again, the feeling of not being of this world came. The women seemed to just appear from the mist without any sign of how. Then the feeling of being watched returned. Perhaps it had never left, but moved aside till then. Nora was waiting at the bottom of the peak to join us, she being the last, making sure all the others were safely up. Casting her eyes around again, Nora sought my own. We could see nothing. The mist was too thick. I motioned her to come, and she ascended to meet us. All was quiet after everyone found a place to sit. Fabry was itching to get back down the mountain, and everyone was hoping for warmth soon. One at a time, we went before the mirror pool to gaze into it. Fabry was content now, as were the rest. The weather didn't matter to any of us in these moments. The stones above made such unusual reflective patterns that the weathered stone holding the water and the hazy fog dripping droplets into the captured rain created their own patterns as well. We were mesmerized, each and every one. There was no chance to write, although some did try under their coats while waiting for the others to have their turn. Writing later with a roaring fire in the cabin suited me just fine. It was time to depart, but impossible with the fog as heavy as it was. We could only see each other, certainly not enough to go down from our peak, the mountain, and then to the bogs below. What were we going to do? Asked Mallory. Fabry will have a rough time heading out in this. And I was thinking I would have a rough time heading out in this too. But then an inspiration took over me. Moving away from the group, without tripping over the women to a small footing, I faced the mist, my back to the women. I raised my arms shoulder height, palms facing slightly outward, speaking. Arianrod, we've done what you have asked. Now we need your help to bring us safely down from your mountain. At the same moment, 5 wild racing ponies, tails blazing behind them, came out at full gallop from what seemed like nowhere, dividing themselves around our peak as they passed us, disappearing into the mist behind. All were shocked. Standing my ground and turning my palms over to face the sky, my arms still raised and called again. I must bring the women off the mountain. Your help to do this we ask of you, great Arianrhod. Clear the mist so we may see. Then, yet again, the 5 ponies came menacingly through the same direction. How did they get back round to come forward again? Unmoving, I held my ground, bringing my arms to my sides, shoulder height, with palms open to the sky, calling for the 3rd time. Release the mist and fog so we may depart, Arianrhod. It is time for us to leave. This time, the 5 ponies came rushing from all directions. Once again, as if on cue, they circled us 9 times. With them came a glaring streak of sunlight cutting through the dense, heavy-laden mist laying directly on me, illuminating the place where I stood. The ponies did not go this time. The women gasped, and the sunlight cut a wider path until the mist parted and moved off as if it never existed. The sun shone brightly, and all the other droplets left hanging mid-air from the quick departure of the mist glistened like diamonds in my eyes. It was as if sunrise had just occurred. All the land was clear and easily viewed. The ponies were dancing around, running here and there. The women were speechless, and finally, lowering my hands to my sides, bowing and giving thanks, I turned to the women with a big smile, saying, "Let's go, because this is not going to last forever." "But the wild ponies," said Fabry, "maybe they won't let us." "Yes, Fabry, they will," as they passed us one last time and ran down the mountain out of sight. Pamela said, "Would you look at that? Wonders and magic everywhere with you, lady. I'll never forget this day, that's for sure." She turned to the group and said, "I've seen some pretty amazing things, and this was one of them." Smiling to her with all the women, nodding, still speechless and awestruck, we ready to leave. We started down from our little peak and headed off the mountain. It was the first time we could see where we were and how we got there. The women stopped to collect a stone to take with them, being mindful that they had a long bog walk back to the minivan. Manary looked up, saying, "The weather looks like it was like this all day." It did look completely different. Surely it would not last. We hurried them along. The ponies did not show themselves on our descent. We stopped to look back, viewed the mountain. Somehow it did not look so amazing in the bright sunlight, not as intriguing or demanding as during the misty climb to reach it. Halfway back again, carefully choosing our way through the hidden bogs, waiting to suck us down to our knees, the weather shifted. The feeling of being watched came again. Nora did not sense it, or was too worried for her footfall to notice at that time. Seeing her busily getting on drove me forward. After a short distance, the mist appeared, although thinly, from the sides of us, with the sun shining down brightly. "What kind of weather do they have here, Pamela? The sun is shining, mist, so unusual for us," speaking loudly for all of us to hear. "Never saw it like this, but Wales has changeable weather." "Changeable, okay, but mist coming sideways." We moved on. The need to turn around and look back at the mountain was urgent somehow, and feeling a pull at my back, as if someone had my shirt and was yanking it to get my attention, finally brought me round. Turn I did, and I saw the ponies up on the mountain watching us go, just standing there. As I was staring up, and with the sunlight I could see 2 of the ponies' markings. One had brown, large spots on cream background from head to foot, and the other was very dark brown with some white splashed around the head, backside and legs. They were strong, well-developed, healthy and intense. Quickly I searched for Fabry to see if she saw them, but no, she hadn't. And when I looked back, they were gone. Strange ponies, I thought, but they were not coming our way, which was just as well. Finally, on the last little leg of the journey to the minivan, it started to rain again, with the misty curtains closing the area from sight once more. The cold came back instantly, and we all gave thanks to the area and got in the van, hoping for heat. It took only a few seconds for everyone to start talking about what had happened. They had plenty of time to think about it on their own, walking to the van. Speaking of the strange and exciting experiences with the heater finally working, all discomfort put aside in the retelling of the stories by each person's perspective, Nora said, 5 horses, 9 times. Boy, am I impressed. I feel like I have come home to where I belonged, like a warrior, a priestess, and a woman, not a woman of the modern 20th century, a true woman who is of the land and the goddess. And knowing that I had long forgotten and remembered in this moment, I would hold on to this forever. My first glimpse of validation of what I had already knew and felt. After all these years, I am honoured to stand with a lady in the land of a mother warrior goddess, Arianrod. My heart sings, my soul is at peace. It is here and now that there will be no doubt ever again. I am daughter of the goddess. You are the lady. I listened and searched my soul for confirmation of what I had just heard about myself. I found none. But the mysterious day was unsettling, exciting, and awe-provoking. After all, there are many ladies. What I did know was this was one journey never to forget, and that Nora found herself and what she had been searching for, and I was happy to be part of that unfolding. Hunger soon took over the conversation, so we headed back to the pub, not far from the cottage, for some hot food and drink. At least that was the idea, until we were to pass Gors Fawr, ancient stone circle, about 20 minutes later, at Pamela's request. Heading back down a little winding road, Pamela spoke of the stone circle, which I had heard about, which should be close to the mountain. I was already tired and wanting to rest, but the excitement grew quickly in the van, so off we went to find the stone circle. Thank goodness for Pamela, she knew the way. The distance was short, but with the weather rain-free and blustery, we decided to go. As soon as we opened the doors, the wind blasted us. Wet clothes, not nearly dry from the last experience, felt icy cold quickly. We could not stay for long, and we could not pass it up. A little rickety gate off the side of the road brought us through to the circle. I had imagined it would be quite easy to see, but it was not. Again, the land was filled with shrubs and small bushes, but no bogs. We headed over to where Pamela led us, fighting the wind the whole time. Soon we were upon it. It was spread out with low, rising marker stones. It was obvious the site was larger than what was there, with the marker stones just peeking through in the distance. Time was not right for too long a stay, so we spread out around the immediate circle. Each woman was moved to be where she felt. Some of the stones had moss on them, others were stark. It seemed someone was here not long before us, as various flower petals on the ground were holding strong in the gusty winds. We moved round to each stone. The area felt powerful, demanding and uninviting. Crouching down did not help much with the fierce wind, biting at our faces, hands, and pulling on our damp clothes. It was brutal out. Still we were there, and not coming back this way, so we remained. I made my way slightly off to the right of the circle, where there were a few taller bushes, trying to cut the wind from its assault. I moved between them, squatting down. A space of calm came immediately. As I relaxed a bit, I noticed the women looked somewhat hazy, out of focus, undefined around their edges, and without clear facial definition. I stared at each one to see if it would change, then rubbed my eyes and looked again to find the same. I decided to shift over a bit, not wanting to give up my new cozy space, and looked again. The women were hazy still, but not as much. How could there be a slight change? Looking around my space, it was all crystal clear as it should be. I put my hand out, and as I reached, the definition changed from sharp to hazy, pulling it back only to see the clarity return. Wow. In a moment I understood. This is a naturally occurring portal that distorts vision. It's more common than not on our Earth. Many people do not know about them. Geomancers and dowsers do, of course. Geomancy is the study of energetic lines, and dowsers are those who use those lines to find water mainly. My understanding of portals started with a dowser. He showed me a portal in his lovely wild garden. I could not see anything, He asked me to reach my hand over a certain spot, which I did. It felt like a crampy abdomen coming on and tightness across my brow. I remembered these feelings from other places I had been in my travels, never really understood why I was having feelings so uncomfortable, just knowing they occurred in different places, sometimes in nature or people's homes. You know when you just feel uncomfortable in an area and you just want to move away from it? Maybe you too have crossed a naturally occurring portal. He explained it as an energetic release, not positive and not healthy for living things. From the way I felt, he was right. This one I had passed through and was on the other side. Maybe with the horrible weather I did not notice the feelings that had come before to mark a portal. Calling Pamela over to the area, I asked her to do what I had done. She saw the same thing. We cleared away, sadly leaving my nice, cosy, wind-free space. There was no time to experiment. I hoped to come back one day to do just that. We circled around 3 times the stone circle, saying our goodbye and giving thanks to the creators of the ancient stone circle. Suddenly there was a rumbling. I looked up and saw that most women were heading back to the van. Turning as I was searching for the sound, I could not believe my eyes. There were the 5 ponies, galloping directly towards the circle. The markings on 2 of them as I had seen on the mountain. I was positive they were the same ponies. Amazing to see ponies so wild and free, triumphant almost, as if they were searching for us and found us, or claiming the space and letting us know. They flew by and then came back again. Being happy to see them and thankful that our leaving of the area had their mark on it, I bowed to the circle and then to the distant mountain, finally to the ponies heading back across the barren land. Just then, I was freezing cold and hurried to the van. This certainly was enough for one day. So there's a piece about one of the trips that Lady has done. I wasn't there on that one, but I feel like I have now. Thanks. See you soon.